Hi guys, good morning. I wanted to do another live video for all of you. I tried to brighten things up a little bit with one of my lights because I feel like it's pretty dark in my house in the morning. So I don't know. We'll see how this one looks, and maybe I'll keep using it, or maybe I won't if you guys feel like it's a really bright screen. I wanted to take a second and talk to you all about going over your macros. The reason that I just started thinking about that is, I had mentioned that I had kind of an off weekend, and on Mondays it's check-ins. I have my computer here. I haven't, received that many. I don't get that many too early in the morning, but it got me thinking. A common problem over the weekends and why I typically do check-ins on Monday is to kind of reset everybody and get them back on task if the weekend kind of was a little bit unplanned and a little different than you thought it would be, and you had a little trouble sticking to your macros. A question that I get a lot is, what should I do? I went over my macros. I feel like I'm having like a connection issue with my phone. We'll see what happens. Looks like it's still going. So I get a question often, what should I do if I went over my macros? Should I add a bunch of cardio in? Should I cut all the macros that I had that I went over from the next day? How do I alleviate this situation? And then I want to get to talking about this and why I don't recommend people cut their macros really hard the next day or do endless amounts of cardio. The reason being is I don't want you to use exercise or dieting as a form of punishment. So if you went over your macros and then you decide the next day that you're going to cut your macros really hard, you're going to do all this extra cardio, you're not really doing the workout, and you're not eating for health and for the benefits and for all the pros. You're kind of doing it for the cons. You're getting on the treadmill and you're planning to burn off what you ate. And that's just a bad mindset to get in. You can ultimately find that you will do something like that. You'll be even more hungry, and then you'll binge again, or you'll go over your macros again, and then you're going to restrict, and then you're going to keep going down this cycle of the binge and restrict, binge, restrict, binge, restrict, binge, restrict. And that's exactly what you don't want to do, because it just gets you in the mindset of a really bad relationship with food. Because you went over your macros, you had fun with your family, you went out to dinner, you went over your macros. Now we're getting, instead of just letting it go and realizing that you can enjoy yourself every once in a while, now you're feeling guilty and you're upset and you're associating the foods at the restaurant with possibly why you would gain weight. And the next day you vow that you're not going to eat barely any calories, and then you're starving, and then you're on the treadmill, or you're going for all of these, like doing all this extra activity, and then you're getting hungrier and hungrier, and then by the end of the night you go overboard again, or maybe you make it a few days, but then eventually you go overboard. So I'm a huge proponent, if this is happening once in a while, it's no big deal. Just brush it off and move on. If you went over your macros, just brush it off and move on. If you are under your macros, another question I get, what do I do? Sorry guys, you're going to probably hear me sniffling. I'm probably the only person in Arizona that has allergies this time of the year versus the spring and summer. So hopefully this isn't too annoying. People ask me, what do I do if I'm under my macros? Do I eat all those macros? If you are under eating, that's just a bad situation to get in when we talked about our metabolism and how your body will just become more efficient at using less and less calories. If you undereat every now and then, it's going to happen. That's fine. I would try to make up your fats and carbs the next day. If you were grossly under, you could kind of spread them out so you're not stuffed, and see if you can make up your fats and carbs. I would just forget about your protein, and I would just leave that be and go on to the next day. You can look at things as a weekly total, but I want you guys to keep in mind that consistency is what's going to get you from point A to point B. Consistency, these are situations that you want to be, this is what you do to handle the things that happen, the minority of the time. If these things, if going over or under eating are the vast majority of the time, then you want to think about how you can change your food to alleviate that situation. If you're constantly going over, your macros are too low for you. So maybe we need to think about adding in a few hundred extra calories. So you're not eating, 1,400 calories, 2,500 calories, 1,300 calories, 3,000 calories, 1,200 calories, 2,500 calories. You don't want all this zigzagging. You really want to try and get some consistency going. So if you feel like you're the person that can never adhere to the plan that you have, it's not the right plan for you, because adherence is number one. So I would personally recommend that you take a look at why you're having trouble hitting those things. If it comes down to poor planning, if it comes down to making better food choices, obviously, hey, good morning, Taylor. Obviously, you want to try and fix some of those things first before you just scrap the plan and go to something else. If you're making these wise choices and you're only having, maybe 15% of your calories come from fun foods, and you're having trouble, you're starving, you're miserable, things are going on, you know that it's not hormonal, you've gotten your blood work done, it's not your thyroid, you're having a hard time sticking to this plan, then you need to think about what you're doing. Because when you think of a weekly total at the end of the week, if you're bumping up your calories and you're having 1,600 calories every day versus 1,200 calories Monday through Friday, and then a couple sets of like gross overages that are way past the realm of if you had 1,600 calories every day, you're really overdoing it. And trust me, it's not that hard to do. I just was at dinner with my dad at Red Lobster. That's his favorite place, so we never get to pick anywhere else. And Eric and I were looking up some of the foods on the menu, and this only takes a second. We typed in Red Lobster and scrolled through. And a lot of the meals, just one of the meals is 1,500 calories. So when you think about it, if you get to the weekend and you decide to eat out at lunch and you decide to go out to dinner and you decide to have some drinks and then you have some desserts and things like that, you can easily consume upwards of 3,000 calories. It would not be that difficult if you were having 3 meals. So like we talk about, you could easily eradicate your deficit. And if you're starving, you're more apt to do that and not listen to your body and when your body's feeling full and go well over that amount. So if you're under eating every now and then, you can eat your carbs and fats the next day. If you are overeating and you need to, scale back, I don't really recommend scaling back the next day. I just recommend getting back on plan and business as usual. You don't want to get, like I said, in the habit of punishing yourself for overeating. You don't want to get in the habit of doing extra cardio, of not allowing yourself the food that you're usually going to have. I would say you can obviously start your day with a higher protein, lower carb and fat breakfast. Sometimes that really helps you feel a little bit better. For me, the pressure of trying to shave off carbs and fats the next day after I've gone over, it's too great for me. I just want to get back on plan and get back on a usual routine because, like I said, I have a tendency personally to get super, super hungry. So if I'm really hungry, then I'm just going to end up going over my macros again the next day and going over them the next day, getting really frustrated. The number one thing, guys, I want you to remember and really consider is how much of dieting and getting in great physical shape is less about working out and eating right and more mental. Okay, it's way more mental. And a lot of having these negative feelings and these feelings of frustration and having the feelings of self-sabotage, those things can prevent you from your goals so much more than you could ever imagine. So if you are over or under eating, those are some tactics that you can use. I don't recommend slashing your calories. I'll hear people that are like, I went out this weekend, so I'm just gonna have vegetables today or something like that. I don't recommend it because I truly believe that it can eventually escalate to you getting into more of the binge and restrict cycle, and that's something that we really want to avoid in those eating patterns. It's not healthy. So I hope that this kind of helped. What do you do when you go over your macros? What do you do if you undereat? I just kind of added that in there because I realized that that's a question too, and how you can alleviate that. Like I said, you don't want to get in the trend of undereating all the time. That's going to prevent you from your goals just as much as overeating. And those are some things that you can do when these are the minority of days. These are the minority. This is not, if this is happening to you on a regular basis, I would say if you're going over your macros or undereating, 3 or 4 days a week, every single week, then we need to take a look and figure out a new plan for you, okay? So I hope that helps, guys, and thank you so much for joining. I love seeing some of you people join in the morning. What do you guys think about me trying to pick a time frequently if I do these at a certain time, and then maybe it'd be easier for you guys to tune in? What do you guys think? You could leave some messages and let me know. This weekend, we're doing our Macro Chef seminar. I'm making an ebook of all the recipes, so that'll be available to you guys too if you can't make it to the seminar. and I'm getting all amped up for the New Year, New You challenge. I still have, it's already half full. I can't believe it. I just posted something about it. So I have 5 more spots. So if you are interested in that, shoot me a message and I'd love to work with you in the new year, okay? All right, guys.